Hi, I'm Sarah Ray, editor of Smart Cities World. Welcome to today's webinar with Aviva, where we're going to discuss how digital twins can help to optimise municipal operations. We're going to look in some detail at an example from the water sector based on a case study from Gwinnett County in the US, but also look at how the principles are more broadly applicable. The session is being recorded, so after the webinar finishes, we'll be sending out an email with a link so that you can watch it again whenever is convenient for you and share with your colleagues. So today I'm really pleased to be joined by Jarrett Campbell, who is the Global Industry Marketing Director from Aviva. Jarrett is going to set the scene, share some really interesting examples with you, and then he'll also be available at the end to take your questions. So please use the question box in your console to send those questions in. We'll take as many of them as we can, and I'm sure Jarrett will be happy to follow up by email for any that we don't get time to answer on the air. So welcome, Jarrett, and looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Sarah. So the agenda for today is I'm going to start with a little bit of scene setting and talk about some of the market challenges and context that drives cities and water utilities, power utilities to unify their operations with digital transformation. We had planned to have a guest speaker from Gwinnett County Department of Water Resources, but I'm sure you all understand that these are strange times and people are out of work and so forth. And so Sam could not join us. Sam Paul from Gwinnett County could not join us. But however, I do have a short video of Sam presenting on this topic that we will share with you during the webinar. After that video, I will come back and talk about the software solutions that Aviva has developed around unifying operations and building digital twins of municipal operations, and talk a little bit about our approach to that. Share with you a demo of a software offer that we have called Unified Operations Center, and then we will take your questions and try to answer them. So starting off with the market context, you know, in the municipal space, there are a lot of challenges around scarcity of resources, environmental regulations, dynamic security, resilience. Obviously, dealing with coronavirus and so forth is on top of everybody's mind. And in this market environment, some of the things that you're trying to do is figure out how to control your capital expenditure, given budgets, compress engineering design cycles, improve operational efficiency, better manage your staff, enable your workforce, et cetera. And none of these are really new problems. What's new in this day and age is the technology that's being brought to bear to try to address some of these problems. So things like cloud and IoT, big data, digital twin solutions, artificial intelligence, AR, VR are top of mind for a lot of people right now as they look to technology to help solve some of these key challenges that we're facing. In the city space in particular, drivers like safety, efficiency, sustainability, livability are top of mind. You know, we're all concerned about our citizens' experience, reducing congestion, getting people to use public transit, improving emergency response, looking at the carbon footprint of the city, trying to reduce energy both from a cost and a sustainability standpoint, you know, making sure the water is safe and reliable, and trying to do this while integrating lots of new data, new sensors, lots of legacy systems, and also meet the regulatory demands and reporting requirements that are in place in your jurisdiction. So all of these things are leading municipal operators to kind of go down the smart city path. And you know, this is another example. I took this from Accenture's capabilities for tomorrow's digital city hall, where they kind of talk about, you know, what does the optimal work process look like for a city. And you know, I don't want to dwell too much on Accenture's philosophy here, but there are some things that stand out in their approach that I think are very relevant for our conversation today. And those are things like simplifying human interaction, really providing a cohesive view of the city infrastructure and services, sharing data across different service providers. So, you know, if you are collaborating with say, the power utility in your locality, or you have vendors that you work with that need access to some of your infrastructure data, that type of thing. Really focused in on performance feedback loops. So once you have access to data and you can see the data, what do you do about it? How do you implement changes to the way your operations are evolving over time? And they also focus on comprehensive asset and fleet management strategies. So really having a holistic view of all of the resources at your disposal to deliver your services. So with those things in mind, one of the things that we talk about is how important visibility to all the available data and having it in context is to your operations. So if you want to manage your real-time performance and optimize your decision support, I guess there's really two key questions that you're asking yourself is, how am I doing right now relative to my plan? And what should I do right now to maximize the capability of our operations? So hopefully as we go through the presentation today and share some of this, you will see some opportunities for answering those questions in your day-to-day operations. One of the things that we need to keep in mind when we look at the city environment is that there are a lot of stakeholders that need access to sometimes the same data, but sometimes different views of the same data. So the things that an operator and maintenance technician need to access, like plans and drawings and condition of operating assets, is a different view of their world than, say, the utility manager or city manager might need. It's referencing the same part of the infrastructure, but it's a completely different view as to what's the information I need and where do I get that information from? Is it coming from siloed applications that don't talk with each other? That's the case in a lot of built-out environments today. So as a result, organizations have poor visibility across silos, across organizations, and really getting to that data, the visibility to that data, and then being able to make decisions on it at multiple levels in the decision hierarchy are a really important piece of the puzzle. So with that, I am going to move to the Gwinnett County portion of the webinar. As I said, Sam Paul was scheduled to speak with us today, and what he had planned to do was share a project that they've done at Gwinnett County where they've taken all of the legacy IT, OT, and IoT systems that they have in place at Gwinnett County and converged them using a unified operations approach. And the good news is that Sam had just given a similar presentation at the ARC Forum in Orlando, Florida on February 5th, and they've allowed us to share that presentation with you today. This will be playing back through your speakers. If you do have trouble with this, I can send a YouTube link out to the attendees after the call, so that will give you access to the video offline.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sam Paul. I'm the section manager over SCADA systems and projects with the Gwinnett County Department of Water Resources. Before I start my presentation, I just wanted to thank ARC leadership and Aviva leadership team here for giving me this opportunity to come and share our information or details about the journey of digital transformation and the IT-OT convergence. So through the presentation here, I would like to share a few information about Gwinnett County Department of Water Resources, who we are and what we do. And the second part is give you a high-level information about the digital transformation and the IT-OT convergence. So we are a water utility company or a organization. Before I start further, let me ask you, is there any water utility owners here? Any water sector people? Can I see some hands here? Okay, I see a few there. Good to see you all. So our mission is to provide superior water service at an excellent price. So Gwinnett County is located in the state of Georgia, about 40 miles north of Atlanta Airport, with 437 square miles, about 940,000 people as our population. If we put all our pipes from Chicago to Sydney, it's about like 8,000 plus miles. That's what we have. We have 2 water production plants. Then we have water distribution sites all across Gwinnett County, about 48 of them, including water monitoring, pressure monitoring, flow monitoring, and distribution sites. And also we have about 230 wastewater collection systems. That's the pump stations. Then from there, we have 3 wastewater reclamation plants across Gwinnett County, 3 of them. So this is our whole system, and we started our journey about 5 years ago when I took ownership of the system. Same as anybody in the same sector, as we have been identified as a critical infrastructure by Department of Homeland Security and other government organizations. We have some regulations moving forward. We cannot simply provide water, but we are under certain restrictions and regulations. So we kind of started our implementation of digital transformation and the IT/OT convergence way before that. So this is the typical system that is all connected together with multi-sites, from the power monitoring to the water source, water treatment plants, and water distribution sites, tanks and boosters, collection pump stations, wastewater reclamation, and all these are connected together at the layer that we have in place on the top side, on the top layer. And why are we doing this? We had to make sure we provide the information securely, more faster, more informed decision. The time when they are looking for right up there, they don't have to look for more information to figure out what they need to do, and minimize the risk to people, assets, and operations, reduce energy and operational cost, optimize performance of employees and asset operations. And it is possible. This is not something that we dream now. Yeah, we did dreaming about 5 years ago, and now we accomplished this. We are on the top end of it. So just give you some information about the details. I don't go much detail into it, just a high-level information. Similar to what I said, the reason behind the success is the vision of our county leaders. When they put their strategic priority, they actually included fostering of or innovation is one of them. So from our county or our department leaders, they brought the same priority and made it as, well, we wanted to be the utility of the future. So Gwinnett County Gwinnett County Department of Water has been recognized as one of the leader in the water industry, and we wanted to make sure we built the same standards all across the board. So we started with the process areas that we have. As you know that, old systems, they have limitations of the old legacy systems, proprietary systems. That is not just one system. Pretty much that's a standard across all the industry. And we were at the same place about 5 years ago. 20 years old system, 30 years old system, multiple different platforms. So we wanted to standardize everything to a one unique platform. So we did that at the process level. And also we have to make sure we implement a standardization on the SCADA platform. So we actually implemented that with Aviva Wonderware platform all across our system platforms. So what we have to accomplish is we had to transform from the old technology to the new. The reason behind it, number one, we have to sustain with the technology and prepare for the future. That's number one. Number two, we are getting a lot of requirement or request to share the data, internally and externally. And since we have the old system, we all know that, old system, we pretty much put it in the box and close it, don't touch it. We can share it. And we had to change that. We had to share the data. And the third one, when you share the data, well, we had to share it securely. Security is another one. So when we put our or complete overarching design details, we included all of them. What kind of processor we have, what's the capacity of the processor, what kind of network architecture that we wanted to implement, what kind of cybersecurity architecture that we wanted to implement from the edge to the enterprise. So the data is sharing from the edge, from the lower level of the process, all the way to the enterprise and collaborating and sharing data to use it more useful factors. So what we did was we actually put the same priority as our critical infrastructure. We do not want to share anything with that particular system to the outside world. So we accomplished that. So how do we accomplish the convergence from the top one? Well, we had to go through the segmentation first. Segmentation and segregation of the operating SCADA system at the plant level. And we accomplished that. Then from there, actually, we wanted to push out the data. That's the only thing that we are doing it. So we securely migrating that data to a tier 1 historian at the plant level. Then from there, actually, we migrating or replicating the data from tier 2 to a SCADA DMC within the SCADA network. Through a DMC secure link, which Aviva provided a great secure solution that we've been using that. And that allows us to connect to the tier 2 that is on the enterprise level. So when we get to that level, we have actually, as you see in the picture, that data flow is going through tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. When we are at that level, we are pretty much at the bleeding edge. We can share the information to anything. We can collaborate, so this is a driver for us before even we get here. Every time we have a request for the data, we put the USB drive and give, manually by the hand. But we don't have to do that anymore. The data is sitting at the tier 3 level. And anybody who wanted to get into the collections of data with proper authorization and the privileges, they can get into the system and they can take it. Moreover, that, over that layer, that is where our dashboards and all that is connected. So our next screen is like this. This is one of our unified control center operations screen. And we are using Aviva OMI platform to get this done. And over there, we can see that multiple sites are connected at the top layer. So we are not getting information from here. Actually, we're getting the information from the historian. At the same time, we take a copy of the Galaxy from our secured network and bringing that up to the multi-Galaxy Aviva platform and put it up there. So where do we get the data from? Not from the plant, but it is coming from the plant, but all the way from the historian. So we're grabbing from the top layer and replicating the data with our multi-Galaxy platform and providing this multi-Galaxy or multi-platform display. This is where we can collaborate more other information. And also from here, we can provide a lot of other information from our SCADA system, like a flow report, water quality, pressure details. If there is any issues with the water system, we can bring that up to our maintenance engineering and operational team without going anywhere else. This is the place where they can get. And in one additional thing that we did when we did the migration from the old system to the new system, we didn't just look at the system by itself, but all 3 levels, the people, the process, the technology. Rolling out a technology is much easier, but when you get into the process and technology, that is not that easy. But make sure we have to have a good plan to support the people, because they are the people end up in using it. So we actually put the users in the front and the front row of this. What would you like to see? What are the problems that you currently experiencing? So we kind of gathered that information, put it into the system, and we actually provided a situational awareness graphics that developed within our system by itself. And that will give more information that they don't need to look for anything else. Like somebody mentioned here already, the workforce is changing. The baby boomers are walking away with the tribal information. You are getting the new people coming in there. So there is no way that we can hold that information, but we actually transform that information into the system and digitalize it and actually replicating back into the people to become more useful. So that is how we are actually leveraging our digital transformation and OT/IT convergence to improve productivity, reliability, and operation excellence. So that's where the whole system look like. I'm going to stop right here. If I get into detail, I just keep on going. So this is a high-level information I can give it to you all. We can have some other, questions or something we can take at the end of it. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Okay, a few users did contact me through the chat window, said they had audio or video problems, but it sounds like most of you were able to view that. For those that did have some technical difficulties, that video is available on YouTube. We will send out a link to all of you after this call, so you can go back and view anything that you may have missed during the presentation. Ideally, we would have had Sam here to talk. That was the plan. And he had a last-minute cancellation due to some staffing issues and so forth at Gwinnett County that they're dealing with right now. So I'm sure everyone understands that. So I'm glad we were able to get permission from ARC Forum to share that video, because I think it really sets the stage for what we are trying to do at Aviva. Sam's been a great customer of us at Gwinnett County for many years and has a great vision for what he's trying to do. And it really aligns with what I wanted to talk about today, which is how can we leverage digital transformation by connecting the assets, operations, and people in your utility, in your city, and really make sure that you're in a position to be agile and resilient and deliver safer, more reliable, and efficient services by connecting all of the different parts of your infrastructure. And when you do that, when you connect those systems together, you have access to the data in context. You can connect your citizens, you can connect your operations people, you can connect your city manager, all to different views of the same data. What it allows you to do is make faster, more informed decisions, speed crisis response. It helps you minimize risk, and it's going to reduce your energy and operational costs, your total cost to operate the infrastructure. And it really helps optimize the performance of your employees and assets and operations. So now what I'm going to do is go into kind of our vision of how we've approached that, and a solution that we have that may spur some ideas of what you want to do in your own city or your own utility operations. So this idea of the unified command and control platform centers around a few basic principles for us. Is we want to build a system that is predictive, not passive. So let's move from a reactive stance to a proactive stance by spotting problems before they occur, by inferring how things are going to evolve over time, and making smart decisions. We want it to be transparent and collaborative, so no more data silos. Even if you have dedicated systems that operate certain aspects of your infrastructure, maybe it's traffic management, maybe it's a CCTV system, maybe it's the water utility, the power utility. We want to be able to get that data, expose it in a cyber secure way to the people that need access to it, wherever they are, whether they're in a control room, whether they're out in the field. We want to be able to allow organizations, our departments, to collaborate more fully and transparently. Another key tenet of this approach is that it must be fully compatible with existing systems. This is not a rip and replace approach. This is a let's take advantage of the existing investment that we have in systems and expose that data in a way that allows us to kind of break down the walls between those existing systems. And it doesn't matter whose PLCs you're using, or whose enterprise asset management system, whose workflow system, all of those things. It needs to be able to share data among systems, regardless of the vendors involved. And then we want to build a agile and responsive system. So we want to put you in a place that allows you to adapt, scale, change your approach as situations arise. And at the end of the day, make sure that you have an operationally useful system in place that delivers faster, better, more efficient decision making. So with that goal in mind, the approach we've taken is what we call the unified system of systems approach. And this really takes a kind of a hierarchical view of your systems. So you can build a regional view, a site level view. So for instance, in the city context, maybe there's a city view, but then there's also a water utility view, and there's a power utility view, and there's a traffic management system view. And so you can build up that system in a hierarchical way, and then display the information in a common interface. And this is just an example of some of the types of things that we bring into this interface, things like map-based status and selector. So you see there a CCTV example, live process graphics from a water treatment plant, integrated work order management system that's allowing you to dispatch work orders, alarm handling, all in a common interface. So we've done that many times with our customers, quite a few examples of customers like Sam, Paul at Gwinnett County, who've kind of taken that approach on their own using our existing technology. But we saw such an interest in this approach that we've actually commercialized this capability into a standard software product from Aviva. And we call that product Unified Operations Center. So what Unified Operations Center is a single pane of glass command and control solution built on an open platform that integrates legacy and future IT, OT, and IoT systems together. Really focusing on connectivity, context-based awareness, visualization, and closed loop control. So it's great to know what's going on, but if you can't take action, the system is incomplete. And so, Aviva is a long legacy of SCADA and operational software in the industrial space. We take advantage of that to add that closed loop capability to our system. It's really focuses around unifying all of your systems, integrating your workflow. It is based on a template-based development approach. And so what that means is, like, say you're a water utility and you have multiple water treatment sites, like the Gwinnett example. They have 2 water treatment facilities and 3 wastewater treatment facilities. Once they develop the templates for one of the wastewater treatment facilities, they basically can take and replicate that at the second facility. A little bit of customization due to any unique requirements, but basically, from a 90% standpoint, they can just take and drag and drop, if you will, or cut and paste, if you will, the model for one wastewater treatment plant to another, connect all the data sources, and they're off and running. So it really speeds the development approach from an IT perspective. Here's a great example of the solution in action. So this is Naya Rapport, which is in India. It was India's first greenfield smart city. And the software that you see on the screens there is Aviva's Unified Operations Center. We are the kind of the backbone of their operational approach. I hope to do a future webinar here at Smart Cities World with Naya Rapport and have them come on and talk in a lot of detail about their experience. It's quite a unique experience because they built the city from the ground up as a greenfield. So they were able to make decisions that perhaps you don't have the luxury of doing in your present environment. But what we can take away from the greenfield approach is that this unified approach that they implemented from day one really brings together all the operational staff and the decision making into a common environment, and it's been quite beneficial. And the nice thing about the Aviva Unified Operations Center approach is that it works whether it's a brownfield or greenfield environment, because you're taking the existing systems that are in place and integrating them together. This shares with you some of the types of data that we pull into our system, anything from financial or engineering information, design data, energy management, process engineering, predictive analytics. You have access to it in the Unified Operations Center. really good for multi-site or multi-function performance analysis across the entire operational set. So the last thing that I want to share with you from a Unified Operations Center standpoint is another video. There is no audio with this, so hopefully everyone will be able to see it. But this is just a quick run through of the Unified Operations Center for cities. And I'm just going to talk over the video and share with you a couple of examples of the different screens. So as I mentioned, this is the Unified Operations Center for Cities demo. The first screen that you will see here in the video is our operational dashboard, single pane of glass. This is really a KPI dashboard. So you can see some of the different parts of the city that are being brought in, whether it be transportation. In this case, we're tracking buses and where they're located. More information about the bus system here, where they are, whether they're running or stopped, or operational. This city also pulled in financial data from the transport system, so they could look at revenue, ticket sales, ridership, etc., all in the same, single pane of glass solution, and allows them to evaluate the performance both at a day-to-day operational level and, overall, what is the uptake in public transit and that sort of thing. The next example here is around street lighting, where we're looking at individual lighting poles and so forth, what's out, what's working, where power failures are, where work orders need to be placed, different views of the data, either, geo-based or tablet-based, table-based. You've got energy consumption data here from the street lighting system. We have CCTV integration where you can click on a camera and pull up a particular view throughout the city. All of these underlying systems are their own systems. So they have their own CCTV system, but this pulls the data and the video feeds from it. Similarly, they have environmental sensors around the city where they can look at air quality, for example. Building management systems from the municipal buildings where they can look at the operation of the underlying infrastructure in the building. Power distribution system in the city, so looking at some of the substations and the performance of those, the water treatment plant, all of this is, representation of the SCADA systems that are in place at the water plant, at the power utility, etc. They can pull that data straight into the operational center. This is a workflow integration, so dispatching work orders and things like that, and that kind of brings us back to the final dashboard again. So that was a real kind of whirlwind overview of the software itself, and I'm going to go back to sharing my slides here. So, I know that was a quick tour of the software. The intention here was just to inform you about some of the capabilities of taking this system of systems approach. I want to wrap up with just a couple of thoughts. Why is real-time decision support necessary? We're all making decisions with limited information today. So the more information we have, and having it in the right place, whether it be in a control room, whether it be on my tablet when I'm in the field, when I'm at home, but I'm still responsible for the infrastructure, being able to get that information in context, see all the data, and have confidence that I'm using all of the data, it is really important from an operational standpoint. And of course, that's going to lead to, you make better decisions, it's going to lead to more profit or cost reduction. If you're a water utility, you worry about things like non-revenue water. If you're a power utility, it's about billing and making sure your meters are correct. From city operations, it's around reducing the fuel used in your fleet of trucks, and the travel time that employees have to take to go from one site to another. All of that leads to your total cost of ownership, right? And then finally, increasing efficiency. The labor force, of course, is strained, particularly right now when people, some people are out of work sick and that sort of thing. So the more efficient you can be, the better. Automated collaboration, elimination of waste, manual work processes, et cetera, all come from unifying these operations, building a digital twin of your operating environment so that in the virtual world, people have access to the data that they're looking for, can make smart decisions. So, Aviva's been doing this type of operational industrial software for many, many years. We have about I would say, it's probably going on close to 50 years now. We've been in the industrial software business. We see a lot of talk about IoT platforms, smart city platforms. This is a little bit different approach. It accomplishes a lot of the same goals, but it approaches the problem from more of an operational standpoint than an IT standpoint. So using operational knowledge, operational techniques, and then blending in the data from the IT systems to provide the integrated key applications you need in order to manage a city or a water utility. I mentioned earlier the build once, deploy anywhere, template-based methodology. It really helps us build out a scalable systems of systems approach to the software. So obviously, I mentioned earlier that I wanted to do another webinar around NIA Rapport and their implementation of Unified Operations Center. I hope to be able to bring that to you in the coming month or so. In the meantime, we're happy to follow up with more information, give you more details about the software, what it's capable of, how it might be applicable in your situation. And at this time, I think we're going to move into a question and answer session. So I'm going to turn the call back over to Sarah, our host, and she will facilitate the Q&A.
Thanks, Jarrett. So just to remind everybody, feel free to send your questions in now while we start going through the first questions that we have received. So just to pick up on a few of the things which you mentioned in your presentation, Jarrett, you shared obviously the example from a water department and mentioned about how it's applicable on a broader scale. Is the water area a typical area to start, and is there any reason for that, or where might people think about where they could start this scalable approach?
Sure. This approach is widely applicable, and it's not just cities. We've done this with oil and gas refineries. We've done this in mining operations. We do this in food and beverage environments. I think that water seems like a very logical place for cities to start for a couple of reasons. One is the water operations, the utility is generally highly automated already. From an industrial processing background, it has benefited from a long history of automation, PLC-based automation, SCADA, HMI. Those are all common technologies in the water operations world. And what we've basically done is taken an approach like that and scaled it up to a broader city's sort of context. And so it seems like a logical place to start. A lot of cities have operational staff that are quite well versed in SCADA and so forth. Other cities kind of approach it from the IT standpoint. They kind of take more of a database approach, looking at data from systems and so forth. But at the end of the day, if you want to close the loop and make decisions that you can automate or that you can take corrective action from a control center, you need that sort of operational flavor to your approach. And so I think that water is an obvious place to start, not only because every city has water supply, but also because of sort of the legacy of automation in that space. It lends itself as a good sort of springboard into this area. And so we see a lot of people that start with water and they say, well, what if I just integrated my sanitation department into the same system? Or what if I added the traffic information into this same system? And before you know it, you've kind of built a vision for a completely unified operations center for your city.
So related to that then, can you share some other examples? You shared a couple of examples in the presentation, but can you bring that to life a bit for us with some other municipalities or infrastructure operators that have taken a similar approach?
Sure. So, I mentioned Naya Rapport in India. I'm sure many folks are aware that there's a massive smart cities initiative from the Modi government in India to build out 100 smart cities. Currently, publicly, 5 or 6 other cities like PCMC, Gangtok, a few others. I'm sorry, some of the names are escaping me at the moment, but there's maybe half a dozen cities in India that have publicly disclosed that they've selected our software to do this with. We have quite a few water departments in the US that are taking this, what I would call the evolutionary approach, where we're doing this unified operations center in their water utility. So integrating multiple sites, basically a mirror image of the example I shared with Gwinnett County. Places like Seattle, West Sacramento are heading down this path with us today. I think we're seeing more and more of this this evolutionary approach. We did this with Barcelona. It started in their Parks and Recreation department as a way of managing irrigation. And the next thing we knew, we were integrating elevators and escalators around the city. And, then they started to bring in transit information. And, at the end of the day, they ended up with a similar unified operations center approach. We also did the same at Barcelona Airport. So not a city, but a critical infrastructure provider. Same approach. We integrate the baggage handling systems, the elevators, the escalators, the water distribution within the airport. All of those things get integrated into this kind of common operational center.
Okay, great. So another question that we've had in is how could utilities or cities evaluate the return on investment for this type of initiative?
So, that's always the tricky part, right? Is what's the value of adding this extra system on top of all the other systems that we have? And so, the easy answer is it depends. What are the challenges that you're trying to face down, and what is the value of doing certain things? I can share a couple of examples. One of my favorite examples is from Carson City, Nevada. We implemented a unified operations approach with them. They did a lot of mobility type applications. They did, basically their entire public works department was integrated through a similar system. And the most tangible result for them is they switched from a 5-day work week to a 4-day work week because their crews were so efficient that they could get all their work done. And they did do still a 40-hour work week. They were working 4 days, 10 hours instead of 8 hours, 5 days. But the biggest single return on investment they got was they saved gasoline in their vehicles because their crews had the information in the field and didn't have to go back and forth between the different maintenance sites back to the operational center to get the data. And that might not be the first thing you think of when you think of an approach like this, but saving gas has an environmental impact, sustainability impact, but it also has a financial impact. And they said they reduced their fuel consumption by like 20%. I've got the exact figure and on our website, and I don't have it at my command, but it's about a 20% reduction in fuel for the city's fleet of maintenance vehicles. Other places that we see savings are in the IT operational budget. So the number of people to support and develop new systems, to integrate new systems, to sustain systems, you're able to use this kind of deploy once or build once, deploy anywhere type approach. The templates, the IT overhead associated with this approach really lends itself to scaling. So there's some cost savings there, and then there is cost savings around labor force. Probably one of the biggest problems I think cities are facing is the generational change in workforce. So a lot of the information that will end up in a unified operations center is it's in the heads of people that have been working for the city for 20, 30, 40 years. And those people are retiring and they're handing off the reins to a next generation workforce that wants everything automated, that wants the tribal knowledge that was in the heads of these folks in a database or a system that they can access on their phones. And so I think there's a huge labor efficiency value. Hard to pin a number to that, but the ability to train people, things like that. So one feature that I failed to mention as I was talking about the capability is the Unified Operations Center actually has a replay mode on it. So let's say, for example, there was a flooding situation in the city and it took a couple of days for all of the operations to recover. You can actually go back and replay the data from all of your different operational systems, whether they be the water treatment, whether they be the traffic management systems, even the CCTV video feeds. All of that data is stored in a database that can then go back and you can look and replay the scenario as to what happened and make contingency plans. So, disaster recovery, resilience type activities, after you've experienced them, you can make sure you learn from that experience by using the data that's in the system.
Okay.
Lots of different ways to evaluate return on investment. What we do is, we would sit down with you and say, what are the problems we're really trying to solve, right? And how do we evaluate what the value of solving that problem would be? And that will lead us to, some sort of estimation of, what's the value of this to you?
Brilliant. Okay, so what are the cybersecurity considerations with this type of approach? I think that's something that a lot of people will think about.
So cybersecurity is a big deal, and if you listen to what Sam was saying in the Gwinnett County presentation, I think he does a really good job of explaining the issues. This data it's critical. In order to breed collaboration, you have to share data, but you have to share data with the right people in the right secure way. So one of the things that is, I would say, I'm not going to say unique to our approach, but certainly it is a kind of a key tenet of our approach, is this is not a cloud only based solution or a premise only based solution. This is a hybrid IT architecture. So at the critical processing areas, like in the water treatment plant, where you need real-time data and you need that system to be able to run, even if it gets disconnected from the outside world, we use an on-premise approach to collecting the data. And Sam mentioned he has 3 tiers of historical data that he stores. Tier 1 historian is on site, it's secure, it's behind a firewall, it's operational. But then they replicate that data to a tier 2 historian, which is perhaps in another location, but it's still an on-premise type approach. That's where they share data from all the different water treatment plants, for instance. And then they have a tier 3 historian, which is cloud-based, which is the one that's remotely accessible by the technicians in the field and so forth. And in between each of these tiers of data, there are cybersecurity precautions, restricted logins, different sort of VPNs and protocols. And I'm not a cybersecurity expert, but basically the system is architected in a way that makes sure the right people have access to the right data, that you don't have issues with the challenges of getting a user who just needs to know like some KPI or dashboard information can't find themselves stumbling into the real-time process database by accident and screwing things up and that sort of thing. So the entire architecture of the approach is built in a way that addresses the who needs the data, who needs to access it from a read-only perspective, who needs to access writing, and builds those security layers in the system.
Okay, so related to that, and something that comes up now in almost every smart city project, who owns the data?
So the customers own the data.
Mm-hmm.
All of this data is coming from your existing systems today, right? And so depending on what type of architecture you end up implementing, there are some cloud systems involved. You can look at Aviva's website. We have data protection policies and so forth. But essentially, the customer owns his data. We are not providing any sort of data as a service, analysis service. We're providing a software platform that you utilize to take the data that you already own, reformat it in different ways, visualize it in different ways, but it's your data.
Okay, so you mentioned the architecture, and somebody has asked about whether you have any insights on the architecture needed to connect different smart city projects and integrate them into the platform.
I'm sorry, Sarah, could you repeat the first part of that question again?
Yeah, do you have any insight on the architecture needed to connect different smart city projects and integrate them into the platform?
So at Aviva, we have quite a bit of experience in different types of integration approach. So at the core of this product, if you will, is Wonderware System Platform. So if you know the operational SCADA space, you know that Wonderware has been around for, I think I said 50 years previously in different iterations. We have literally hundreds and hundreds of both open standard protocol drivers as well as custom proprietary drivers that have been written. We have hundreds of system integrators in our partner network that have done, specialized solutions. Chances are you're not going to surprise us with a particular system or a communication protocol. And then, our integration team, our services team will sit down and look at your system and propose an architecture that is, the correct way or the most efficient way of dealing with your sort of custom implementation. But the beauty of this system of systems approach is it really takes the view that it doesn't matter what those systems are, there's a way to bring that data together into kind of a common interface that you can look at while still preserving the functionality of the existing system. So one of the questions I see in the chat was around, which traffic management system or where's the traffic data coming from? And it's coming from an ITMS system. We don't really care who the vendor of the ITMS system is, as long as that system has the ability to, through an API or through some communication protocol to expose that data, we can integrate to that using the drivers in the Wonderware System Platform toolkit.
Okay. So another interesting question is, could this system be used to design infrastructure using scenario analysis? So for example, to decide whether to build a theme park or a mini stadium, and to understand how design decisions might be impacted?
I apologize, but I'm going to ask you to read the first part of that again. Sorry, Sarah.
Could this system be used to design infrastructure through scenario analysis? So, if you're thinking about building a theme park or a stadium, to think through, what would work best, how it might play out.
So it's a very interesting question. It really fits with the digital twin theme of the call. I didn't talk very much today about engineering and design phase. I really talked about the operational phase of say, a city's life cycle or an infrastructure life cycle. Aviva has another part of our business, which I don't work with as much as probably I should, that really focuses on engineering design and digital twin of, it's 3D digital twin type technology for, we do it for oil and gas, we do it for, in the building space, et cetera. So there's a lot of design and engineering tools in our arsenal. This system that I described today is really built around taking real-time operational data and displaying it and visualizing it and taking action based on it. I don't see any reason you could not take a simulation of the designed infrastructure and feed the data in a simulation type model to this type of system. It's an interesting question. We actually do this in the oil and gas space because another part of Aviva is really involved in first principles modeling of chemical and petroleum processes. And so we have simulation tools that can simulate different design considerations for a refinery and make recommendations on which way to go from an operational standpoint. It's not exactly the same as the question that was asked, but it's in a similar ballpark. So very interesting question.
Brilliant. Well, we're out of time for questions today, but I'm sure that Jarrett's going to go through all the ones we've received after and follow up on any where we can provide more detail or we haven't been able to cover them. Thanks very much to everyone for sending in so many great questions and for attending. As I said earlier, we'll follow up with an email with a link to this webinar, the slides, and also the videos which Jarrett played during the webinar. And we also have a link to a related report which we did relating to digital twins. And again, it covers many more examples of how you can use this approach in your city or utility. So thank you very much, Jarrett, and thanks everybody for tuning in.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, take care.